I've told a couple of the kids at school, I'm like, look, if you want to have your phone, it's called homeschool. You can be on your phone all day long. You don't have to worry about the rules if you don't want to follow those. And also, I've argued for this and advocated for this for a long time. If there are kids in school that don't want to be there, get their butt to the alternative learning center. Let them get their credits and let them get out. I cannot tell you the number of students in my 27 years, 20 now 28, that I don't want to be here. Coach, I don't want to be here. I just want to work. I worked all summer. I was working 40, 50 hours a week. I was making really good money. And when I come to school, I can't make money. I got to help support my family. I got to help pay bills. I just want to work, okay? And then they have to jump through hoops to get to the alternative center so they can just get their credits and get out. You know, if that's what students will do, because that student ends up becoming a truancy or a behavior problem sometimes. Right. Not all of them.
They don't want to lose their per diem per student.
You know, but they'll still get it because they're at the alternative center, and those numbers count with ours.
Right.
According to what I've been told. So they still get them, and that's another thing. If we want to talk about that, you know, funding doesn't need to be tied to attendance because we're in our first full week of school, Monday through Friday, and I would say that I've already got about 10 to 15% of each class out. I had a student get COVID. I got kids that are sick.
Yeah, and I'm not going to give the magic numbers, but I sit there and talk to schools about funding a lot of the times and get in conversations with different districts across the nation, and there's a cutoff time where the kids considered there for the whole day, and then there's also that cutoff time when they could leave and not be counted as absent, and people know that. Like why do we have to have a system where people know that? Because the dollars and cents matter about that kid being in a chair.
Yeah. When
it should be, okay, our attendance attrition rate or graduation rates, those should be the driving factors.
Like a meritocracy metric or something.
Something like that. But I don't even know if that would fully work out either, because you could go to inner city schools and say the same thing, and they might have one of the highest attendances out there, but they might have a lot of kids that do have to work for a living to support their families because, come from a single family instance or a single parent instance or something like that. You never know the kid's situation there. And like I said, there's kids that come to school to be loved because they're not getting love at home too.
It's a bad situation. And the holidays are the worst for them.
Right.
And summer's the worst time for them. Like everybody's excited about school getting out. They're terrified. Well, and there's people that have talked about, and I've seen this being advocated by adults on X and on Instagram and on Facebook and on podcasts to tie funding to enrollment. So you want to talk about, so people are like, well, how would you do that? Here's how that works. So if you tie it to enrollment, now there's more incentive for schools to make sure that they are showing academic progress. Yeah. Because if you're a school like Wimberley that has an open transfer policy, and they're rated A, let's say they're rated A. I think they're rated A by the TEA system, which really doesn't mean anything because the numbers are skewed in their load in order to get an A. But Wimberley ISD is a good school district. Yeah, they have their problems. Ask Ashley that, and some of the issues that happen with her kids. But academically speaking, it's a strong school. So if it's based on enrollment, it encourages your school to be academically, have good teachers and perform well on whether you like tests or not, but to perform well, because that increases enrollment. If you increase enrollment, you increase your funding. And so for the schools that are struggling, and we don't do a good job of prepping teachers. I've said this before, and so heavy on testing, and the kids get test apathy. We got to do CFAs.
Oh, the anxiety that even creates is
it's crazy.
Texas has the STAR. Common Core is not curriculum here in Texas, but I'll be honest with you, the STAR is the same as Common Core curriculum that you would see in other states and stuff like that. It is. Well, I deal with school districts from Chicago to Indianapolis to Minnesota to Iowa, Oklahoma,
all over
the central United States.
I need to travel
all the way down Arkansas, Louisiana. I mean, the parishes are a little different instead of counties, but that's the only thing that's different in Louisiana. And I mean, it's the same story from Common Core to individualized state testing. We've turned it into a unit because statistically we need to be able to measure our progression, right? And if you can't measure, we built a system based on measuring progression and creating measurables, because measurables are actual results. There's that old saying that says, statistics never lie, but statisticians always do, right?
That's so true.
And
Did somebody say NIH?
Yeah, it's
Dr.
crazy.
Fauci? What?
But so that's so my wife used to write curriculum for Common Core, and I'm indifferent when it comes to testing because I do think there is a measurable or a barometer that kids need to be judged on. But I'm also like, she taught me so much in the way she taught, how she created an experience for kids, because she was an elementary education teacher. I mean, here it is, she's teaching about Christopher Columbus going across the ocean. She builds a ship in the middle of her classroom with first graders and has them acting like they're hitting waves and going through and just creating an interactive experience. And it didn't exactly follow the curriculum that she was supposed to teach for Common Core, but her kids were testing some of the highest in the school. But that was her barometer, right? And her measuring stick. I mean, she got recognized for Disney Teacher of the Year. I'll throw plugs at her all night long because I thought she was a phenomenal teacher. She also walked away from that because of what she saw it turning into, where schools more and more from that point forward started saying, this is our test, this is our curriculum, teach to the test. So it almost became a point, and she uses substitute teaching here in Texas more as that's how I serve, right? She wants to help people and help them be light in their burdens and stuff like that, and be a light in like hallways that she's going into. And she enjoys substitute teaching. She enjoys giving relief to people and doing those types of things. But she's like, I can't be in the classroom because I can't be as creative as I used to be, because it's no, you got to teach to the test.